Now we're going to talk about supervision of all staff, training new staff and experienced staff, and a little bit about team building. This class is very dense with content. I really only have about 2 weeks to go over employment matters. So last week was employee rights, employer rights, and some legality issues. This week, we've really had to condense a lot of our basic supervision into just 1 week so that we can go on to budgeting, food, health and safety, evaluations. There's more things that we need to cover in the class. So unfortunately, it's really just a introduction and basic supervision, an introduction to training, kind of the ideas of training new staff or follow-ups for older staff, experienced staff within your program who are learning a new concept, and then positive team building, simple ways to stay positive, recognize the staff, encouraging good staff to remain, trying to have less staff turnover. We're also going to discuss program staff management and evaluations later in the course. So page 242 of the textbook kind of goes into all the roles of quality supervisors. So a supervisor trains new staff, all staff, experienced staff. So when a new staff onboards, there is going to be training, all staff in new procedures and policy, and then experienced and new staff alike on issues that might be raised because of job performance. They also need to ensure compliance, and we have a lot of regulations. We have licensing, our bare minimums. Then we are usually trying to use ECHRs, our environmental rating scales, to improve our programs. Then we have regulations and procedures from our own organizations, from QPI, Quality Preschool Initiative. So there's lots of different agencies that are requiring procedures and policy, and so a supervisor needs to ensure that compliance is happening both in their management program and also within the classrooms that they're supervising. A supervisor should inspire, build teams, highlight the positives, encourage staff, and let their personalities show so that they feel happy and they feel like they're part of a great team that's producing really great educational experiences for children. They should also be available, so available to your staff daily, children and families, so that a parent who has an issue feels comfortable coming to you. You're aware of the children in your program. If they're having some, life experiences that might be adding to challenging behaviors, possible special needs, and just generally knowing the children in your program. And then available to staff on a daily basis so they can talk to you about concerns in the classroom. They can come to you when they're having life issues of their own that they might need support with. And then flexibility is huge. A supervisor needs to be flexible. You might need to sub on a day. You thought when you came in, great, I've really got to go through these ECHRs, environmental rating scales that came back today, so that later tonight for our staff meeting, I'm all prepared and ready to go. That might not happen because you need to sub because you had 3 people call out. Or you wanted to do your food program paperwork, but you had a grumpy parent come in who wants to talk to you with some concerns. So you're flexible and you're responsive to the needs of your program. This is a video on training staff. This man it's from YouTube. He's a manager and he specializes in supervisor training and small business training. So he has some really good ideas on professional development and ways that you can support team members in training techniques. So I think one of the biggest issues with training new staff is that a big part of our job is ensuring compliance. We've talked about this ad nauseum. We have a variety of regulations and requirements from licensing, from state, from other government agencies that we have to comply with in order to run a safe workplace for our employees and for our children. So it's really important that for all staff, we really clearly communicate our expectations. But for our new staff, it's both before and during training. And then you really want to assess your teacher's understanding of those regulations, because if they don't understand it, they're not going to be able to comply with it. And a lot of times you'll have staff tell you that they understand it, but you're going to need to check. So you want to ask, and then you want to check that they understand by looking at the expectations and if they are being practiced within the classroom. And then you are going to have to retrain or remind all staff about your expectations throughout the year. So I'm going to give you an example of how I would train a new staff member on some ratio and supervision information regulations. So ratios should be maintained, and that's an expectation that I have for my new staff member. So when she onboards, she's going to sign the job description and the employee handbook stating what the ratios are. And then we're also going to go over our procedures for maintaining ratios and supervisions. And for me, I want to make sure that I hit all the different ways that we know adults and children learn. So that's walking through the classroom, that's looking at the mirrors, that's looking at half walls, that's pointing out areas that are problematic on the playground or in the classroom, and then walking her through step by step maybe what my idea for playground supervision is and how employees are spaced out on the playground in order to prevent clumping. Then after she has been trained and she's in a classroom, I'm checking in during either her first month of employment probation or just her first couple weeks on the job to reassess and check in that she understands ratios and she understands what my expectations are and she can carry it out in the classroom. And through my daily rounds of the classroom, I'm checking that those ratios are maintained. And I put this in because it's important to check at all parts of the day: bathroom breaks, going in and out to the playground, field trips, not just, nap time when the children are unconscious, but all the types of day, especially the challenging parts, to make sure that she can still have those ratios and that supervision maintained. And then I would make it a point at any monthly staff meeting or throughout the year, if I only do it quarterly or yearly, or I check in weekly during nap time, but it's important that you talk about ratios with all of your staff and not just your new staff. So when you have a new policy or procedure, how do you implement that? My policy for a new policy, but how I train a new policy is new policy, new training. So you can do this a couple of different ways. You can do it one-on-one, you can do it in NAP meeting, you can do it at staff meetings, you can have them called out by a substitute or a float. But it's really important, I think, to remember that we have varied learners. We're very good at doing this in the classroom typically. We know that children learn in a different way, in a variety of different ways, but we need to remember that our staff is the same way. So I'm going to give you an example of training staff in a hand washing policy. Hand washing after diapering should not be a new policy to you, but I have seen and recently somewhere that will remain confidential, that I was just as a private person out in the community, that there was not a lot of hand washing going on after a diapering. So if I was coming into that center and I was going to do a new policy, what I would do is I would explain it and I would show it. I would get a baby doll, or I have an infant right now of my own, so I would bring her and I would show all the steps of diapering. Then I would show all the steps of the child washing their hands and the staff member washing their hands. Then I would allow the staff to discuss and bring up concerns like maybe supervision. If you're doing all of these extra steps, how are you supposed to be responsive to the other infants in your care? Then we would do some hands-on practice with the baby doll. How are we diapering? How are we using our gloves? How is the infant's hands being washed? How are my hands being washed? What if we can't wash our hands? Is hand sanitizer okay? That type of stuff. So they're actually hands-on practicing it. Then I like to post procedures with pictures, and they're explained and they're posted at sinks. This helps for parents who are coming in who maybe need to be reminded about hand washing, new staff, and it's just nice to have a visual reminder of how you're supposed to wash your hands or how you're supposed to change a diaper. You could also do this if you have staff members making your bleach in the morning. like actually showing the measuring cups, how much water, the lines, that type of stuff. Procedures with pictures can be really helpful. Then the staff's all going to sign that there is a new procedure and that they understand it, and then that they'll implement it. And then the director is going to observe in all of the classrooms to make sure that diapering is happening. So maybe in a toddler room, going after nap time when all the children's diapers are being changed, so that she can ensure that there's compliance with the new procedure. So daily supervision. Because as a director, you have ultimate responsibility for how your teachers act and how your children are cared for, you need to supervise your staff on a daily basis. The easiest way is a daily walkthrough. So you're checking in with your staff every day. You're starting off pleasant, helpful. You're encouraging positive workplace vibes. You're encouraging staff to come to you with any issues and concerns. So that's usually kind of your morning routine. Then there are other times when you're going to walk through and check in their classrooms. You want to observe them at work, either formally or informally, assessing their work. What policies and procedures are being implemented, who needs training, a plan of action, or professional development. You're also observing children, see how the groups work, who has issues, maybe possible special needs. Should children be separated out of the small groups that they're in, maybe even possibly put in a different preschool classroom. And then face-to-face with parents, challenging parents, or just kind of face-to-face contact at drop-off. You're not just in the office. You're on hand, you're responsive to them, and it shows to parents that you know what's going on. You're aware of your staff, you're trying to be on top of it. That's nice for parents to see when they see the management team or the manager in the classroom interacting with them and their children and their staff. So you just really need to make sure that your procedures are being implemented. Once again, it's that idea of compliance, and that they are being compliant with your procedures in the classroom. And then also maybe they don't work. Maybe your procedure is kind of wonky. Maybe it's completely unrealistic. It doesn't allow for proper supervision. So you're absolutely going to have to reassess your policy and procedure, rewrite it, and come up with something that's actually going to work within the real world application of a classroom. So I think our textbook does a good job of giving you an overview and an introduction to professional development, and that's on page 248 to 252. But really it's kind of a holistic, whole person view of building up a professional to encourage their own professional capabilities and goals, and also to ensure that they remain current within our field. And this will be for our new staff and for our established and experienced staff. You can do it individually or as teams. For example, classroom team might want to learn more about desired results, the DRDP, and then an individual mentor might want to go and take a class so that she could motivate her classroom team in like appropriate documentation or portfolios, something like that. As management, you should have a professional development goals as well. Workshops that you're going to take in order to remain relevant within licensing, ways that you want to fulfill the vision of your center by taking additional classes, orientations, or workshops. And then support staff as well, and this is really important for your cooks if you're lucky enough to have them within your program. Food handlers permits do expire. You do need to take additional trainings and classes, so knowing when that's happening and stipulating when your cook is going to have to take those classes so that it doesn't expire, because a cook without a permit is kind of an issue. This is much different than a plan of action. I do think that they need to be formal, but it's not something that is dependent on their performance. So if they fail at professional development, you might have some concerns. You might want to draw up a plan of action after that, but typically all your staff, no matter their performance level, are engaging in some kind of professional development. I wasn't really a big believer in this. I hadn't had kind of great experiences with it until I did QPI quite a few years ago, and QPI is our Quality Preschool Initiative here in San Diego County, and I had a really wonderful experience being coached as a site supervisor / lead teacher in a state-funded preschool. And it also stipulated that we attend a certain amount of workshops in order to receive a stipend. And I had a really wonderful time doing this program, and it really added to my practice as a teacher and as a supervisor. And so I've really bought into this idea of professional development and how important it is for all staff, no matter their child development knowledge starting off point, how long they've been in the program, everybody benefits from this. So please read those 4 pages in the textbook. It's going to give you a great idea of ways that you can start to implement some professional development within your program. So I want to talk a little bit about team building, and this is creating positive workplaces, and it can either be as a whole program, so considering your team, all the people who work for you, support and teaching staff, and making sure that everybody feels appreciated and supported, buys into your educational vision, and is willing to implement it. And then also you can break it up into classroom teams, so allowing teams that work in preschool or infant toddler time and space to support each other to build up teams within a classroom. Because classroom teams play off of each other, you take your strengths and you play with your strengths, and then they make up for individual weaknesses. So supporting classroom teams is really important as well. Video, are you a good boss or a bad boss? Just talking about some issues that might be raised with training, team building, not wanting to take credit for other people's work, that type of stuff. So this is just kind of a humorous view about are you being a good supervisor or a not so good supervisor. So just a couple basic team building ideas. These are things you can research on your own. If you're struggling with building a new team, or your team has gotten off to a rough start, or they've been together a while and they're kind of taking each other for granted. These are just a few ideas. It's something that you can look out for on your own as well. So staff recognition informally on the spot. I'm a huge believer in this. I think you could do a lot of other things to build teams, but this is probably my #1 idea and things that people already do a lot. So if I was looking over a lesson plan before I returned it to staff, I would say, wow, that is such a great idea. I love that you're going to do that. And I would highlight the thing that I thought was such a great idea. And do you need any help? Do you need any materials or space in order to achieve that? Then also, thank you for taking out the trash, even though you weren't even asked to do that. You know, that was a really stinky diaper in the infant room. Thank you for tossing it outside so we're not smelling poop all afternoon. Like the children that we work for, positive reinforcement is really going to go so much farther than discipline. So shouting out all of the positive things that you see employees doing, and they should be doing, they are doing it, I promise, on a daily basis. Shouting out the good thing that they're doing is going to be much easier than, you know, focusing on the negative. And then you can encourage your lead staff, your mentor staff, to motivate and encourage newer staff. We talked some about delegating and including your experienced staff and training your newer staff, but they also are going to see that staff member learning the procedures and telling them when they're doing a good job with their diaper changing, or thank you for filling out the safety checklist, or nice job on your lesson plan is really going to show the new staff what they're doing well. So encouraging and giving your mentorship to your experienced staff members will really help as well. And when you do recognize staff for their positive, you can do it formally as well. So informally is great, but maybe you want to do certain an employee of the month, or in your staff meeting talk about some great things that a preschool team is doing. Or even sometimes I've had staff newsletters. We had a huge program. We had 80 staff members. So we actually had a staff newsletter that went out every month talking about changes to the program. We even had like little classified ads. If somebody was like getting rid of a plant or something like that, they could put it in there. But we would also shout out like, oh, so-and-so just got back from maternity leave. Yay, we're so glad to have you back. Stuff like that. And then time out just for fun. We have typically monthly meetings, or you have quarterly meetings, or you meet during nap time. But I'd also just encourage people to twice a year, once a year, if you can, have a party. Have a time and a space where staff can just relax together and just be employees together. One year, the 4th of July was on a Monday, so we got out at 2 or 3, I don't remember exactly what it was, and we met at an employee's pool, and we had a pool party potluck, and just the rest of the evening we just had a lot of fun. And we had let parents know way in advance that we would be closing a couple hours early on the Friday before the 4th, so that we could just have fun. A lot of times maybe you'll have a holiday party in December. You won't even cut into the hours that you're providing care. You all meet, at 5 or 6 at a restaurant, or you have a potluck at somebody's house. So that's just a nice thing to do, because you are a team, you are a human. Just sitting and talking with people, that can go a long way as well. And then highlighting employee strengths. In the past, I've had people that are like DJs, so their side hustle is to be a DJ. This one guy, he sings, he dances, he makes jokes. I mean, he just makes people feel wonderful. He's one of those people that you want to sit next to and you want to talk to. He's just the ultimate people person. So we had kind of Friday meetings where we could try to get our staff together before we kind of went back into the classroom. So in this program, we had a morning and an afternoon program, and so we struggled, but we were able to kind of get people together in shifts for these Friday meetings. And he would sing happy birthday to people, he would shout out people who had just gotten back from Mexico on vacation, and he would pass around chocolates. It was amazing. So I was highlighting him as a great person and his strengths as an employee, and then he was supporting and elevating and making everybody else feel great. It doesn't have to be a DJ if you don't have a DJ on staff. Some people like to cook, they like to bake. I had a staff member who literally every Friday there was something in our staff break room, cookies, cakes. I mean, it was amazing. On other programs, we had Payday Friday. Once a month, we would order pizza or we would have a potluck, something like that. So just ideas on creating this sense of family at home, and celebrating the positives of our program. Team building on YouTube, a lot of really awesome things are going to come up. Typically, they're like 5 to 10 minute videos of ideas and activities that you can do with staff. So maybe you don't have a full day or you don't have a lot of meetings, but maybe you can take 10 to 20 minutes and give them a marshmallow challenge. This is a cup building, cup stacking challenge. So fun ways that you can kind of encourage people to have fun and be silly together. That goes a long way with team building. So directors have a lot of responsibilities. We have to oversee implementation of policies by our staff. We have to train new and experienced staff, so new staff who are onboarding, and then experienced and new staff who are learning new policies. And then you need to just kind of make sure that your workplace is as positive as possible through maybe some team building ideas. Because once again, positive reinforcement and shouting out the positives of your staff is really going to go a long way in creating a great workplace where people want to stay. So you have 2 short readings from the textbook. 212 to 227 is all about the hiring and firing procedures, and I think the book does a really good job of going over the process of interviewing. And then we have 4 pages, 248 to 252, which goes over some professional development. Your online assignment is to use the templates that I've provided on Canvas to write both a plan of action and a job description. And once again, these templates are just to give you an idea of how you would construct one in different kinds of scenarios. It's a learning activity, and this isn't something that you should take because I've created it. It's not something that you can take and use yourself. You could take the ideas of it and work with someone else in order to create them specific to your own business. And then please continue to work on the field trip assignment, which is due October 15th. This is the second one and the final one. Once again, you're choosing an early childhood education program, you're observing, you're interviewing, and you're analyzing. The instructions for this are in video and in written form, and they're in the course requirements module on Canvas. And then the discussion board is kind of how we inspire our more experienced staff who might have been with us for quite a while, reigniting the passion for the work that we do. And then I put 2 of my own resources from Gail Jack's Business of Childcare, her personnel policies, and then a coaching log if anybody wanted some additional information on professional development or working as a team. I just kind of put some coaching information and a coaching procedure sheet that I've worked with before.